Right, morning YouTubers, Facebookers and Instagrammers. Just thought I'd have a quick little talk this morning. So you might have a new puppy, you've bought a new puppy this spring, summer. You know, you might be at 12, you might be 18, 20 weeks plus. And that little pup that you originally had that was round your feet, you were tripping over, etc. Now it's getting a little bit confidence, moving on a little bit further. My pup, where I come up for my training, I do my bits and pieces in the morning and then I take him for a walk up the track and he has a run round, does his ablutions, etc, etc. If I don't put a lead on him at the top, all he'll want to do is run all the way back to the car. Now the simple solution to that is obviously put the lead on, which is what I do. So don't feel that that's a cop-out. It's just at the moment, he's only at very, very basic training. So as long as I don't put habits into him, I will deal with those later. Now, your dog's training is a collection of habits. Habits you may teach, habits the dog may pick up itself. Now, your job is to keep those habits that it picks up itself to an absolute minimum. Certainly until your training starts to take over. Training a dog is just one big con, really. You're conning the dog into thinking there aren't other options and the only options that they have are the things that you want them to do. But that takes time, you know. Certainly for me, it's going to take me till a year old until I'm, really got that dog under good manipulation. By most people's standards, it'd be very, very good by them. But for me, it's still only a relatively basic standard. Okay. And then it's going to be probably 2 years before it's ready, 18 months to 2 years before it's ready to go trial. If it makes the grade, that is anyway. But you need to avoid putting that dog in lots of situations earlier on that you are then going to have to try and deal with later on. Now, especially as a novice handler, you really need to minimize those options for the dog, that it can explore, because you don't have the skill sets to obviously deal with those. So, like I say, if you are starting to find that your dog is creating these habits now, sometimes I find a lot of the time with the novice handlers that, again, they're not noticing these habits till a lot later on. Now, when you're an experienced handler or professional, you know those things are coming, so you're actually putting things in place to avoid having to deal with those later. So when I tell my clients not to do something, I'm not making it up. Now, some of the things I might say, don't do this because that could create that, or you want to avoid that, and they don't do it, let's say, and they don't have the problem. They think, well, Chrissy doesn't know what he's talking about. No, sometimes it works out like that. But if it doesn't work out like that, and your dog ends up having those issues, then you could be in a lot of trouble. And that could vary from all sorts of things from, as I said, dogs get they're very good at picking up on routines. And we use routines in training. For example, if we're teaching blinds and memories, we're using a repetitive motion to the same spot to pick up a retrieve, and that's how we start to do it. But the dogs also pick up repetitive routines for the negative as well. So your job really is to keep those to a minimum. So as I said in my last video a few weeks ago, all I want to do by 20 weeks old is have some sort of basic retrieve, out and back that is. Doesn't have to be very far, 5 feet, whatever, I don't care. Just out and back, keen to be with you. Can walk on a lead, happy. Can sit. All this recall stuff, I'm not worried about that. It's meaningless at this stage for me. People might not agree with me, but the training is what will control your dog in the long run, not whether you can call your dog back from 50 yards. If you're letting your dog go 50 yards, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Yeah, that's just one of those things, really. It's the training eventually that manipulates everything and makes the dog under control, not just having one thing that will seemingly get you out of trouble. I don't want to talk about that, it irritates me. Anyway, so if you fall into that bracket and there's things that are starting to happen, so often there is a simple solution. But as I said, the main thing is to really keep that dog's options to a minimum. It takes 18 months to 2 years to train a dog properly. So if you're only at 4 or 5 months old, okay, just don't be allowing that dog to pick up those issues and let the training take over later on. And if you've got no intentions of doing that much training, then you could be in trouble or you might be all right. It just depends. But by the time you find out one way or another, you might regret that. But anyway, sorry for a little bit of a rant, but I just want to, I try so much all the time to try and tell people what the right thing to do is, but people will always want to find their own way, which is absolutely fair enough. But if you want any help anyway, get in contact with me, or if you're having with a Spaniel, not particularly local to me, find your local Spaniel specialist. There's people all over the country who are very, very good, know what they're doing. But don't wait to find the problems, okay? Because that will always be much, much harder for you. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, has made some sense, and I haven't annoyed you with my rant too much, and I'll catch you later, guys.